Hi, this is Marek from Tryb Solo. Today I want to tell you more about Sleeping Gods Distant Skies. This is a game published by Tryb Games, and thanks Tryb for sending this game for review. This is the sequel to Sleeping Gods, but the standalone sequel. You don't need to play the first game in order to know what's going on here. In this part, in this game, in the sequel, your plane traveled through a portal and landed in a strange world, just like in first Sleeping Gods. And you need to find your way back home, you need to find the magical totems and discover what's going on. This is a cooperative, adventure, story-driven campaign game, but the campaign here is not divided into different scenarios. It's an open-world adventure game, so it's up to you where you go, where you travel. You just have to follow the main goal and main story and find as many totems as you can before the game ends. Now I will show you how the game plays without any spoilers. I will also talk about the comparison between this game and the first Sleeping Gods, because this sequel shares a lot of gameplay elements from the first Sleeping Gods, but there are some differences. So while showing you how the game plays, I will talk about the things that are new in this game. So let me show you how it plays. So this is Sleeping Gods Distant Skies on my table. This game is huge, just like the first Sleeping Gods. The game takes a lot of space on the table, less than the first Sleeping Gods because you have less characters, but still there are a lot of components. I will briefly tell you what this game is about and how the game plays. I will also try to tell you what are the differences between this game, the second game in the series, and the first one. Because it's unavoidable to not mention the first Sleeping Gods. A lot of gameplay elements are the same, but there are some differences that make this game more streamlined and I think easier to play and to handle. So here are most of the components on the table. What I haven't show you is the map of the whole area where the game takes place. This is a journey log. And when you start the game, you take one page from this log. Here you will write down your health and different notes. Also, when you want to save the game, you will write your location, health of each character. You will mark how many camps you used and write some notes. And here on the other side of the journey log is a map where you can also mark different things, write notes. If you will discover a location that, for example, needs a specific keyword, you can write it down, so it's really cool. Another thing that is not here on the table is this huge storybook that you will use to read different story entries. When you explore the game, when you will adventure, you will read different entries in this storybook. This storybook has more cool things than the one in first Sleeping Gods, because here you also have some locations, you will have some boss fights like this and cool components. At the start of the storybook you will also have the map of the western lands of Wandering World. So this is where the action takes place. This is the action of Distant Skies, and here the Wandering Sea is the place when the first Sleeping Gods took place. I will not show you what's inside exactly because I don't want to spoil the game. We also have this box full of cards. Here are different quests, different adventure cards. You will take cards, they are all numbered, like here for example 117, and when the game tells you to take specific quest or adventure card, you will take it from this box. We also have, for example, the enemy deck with different enemies that you will encounter in the game and you fight. But the main part, I would say, is this atlas in the center of the table, because just like in the first Sleeping Gods, here are all the maps of different locations that you can explore. You will move around this map, you will go to different locations. Some of the spaces have this symbol. This is like a secret symbol that you will discover in the game. Some locations have this obstacle symbol, and this means that these are the areas that are more difficult to get to. Here are numbers in different spaces. When you are in a location with a number, you can do the explore action and you will read a specific chapter in the storybook. There's also the plane icon, and this is like a landing spot for your plane. because unlike in the first game where you traveled with your ship around the map, here you will walk on foot and you will move your miniature. This is Claire, the main hero, the main character in this game, and you will move this miniature to different locations. Of course, when you go to the edge of the page, you can, here is number 4, you can open the next page and you start here. But apart from moving around the map with your miniature, you can also use your plane. In this game, you were on a board on a plane, and the plane went through a portal and appeared in this strange world. In the first game it was a ship, now it's a plane, and you can use this plane to travel around the atlas. Here is the plane board, and it shows you different locations, like different pages. And if you are on a spot with a plane, you can use the fly action to fly from here, for example, to, let's say, here. And it will save you a lot of walking. So the plane works a little like a fast travel option from, I would say, RPG games. If you are in a location with the landing site, you can use the plane to fly to another page of the atlas, to another location. But your plane needs fuel, and you will have to refuel your plane if you want to fly, because each fly action uses fuel. It also has got health. Usually when you fly around the map, your plane gets damaged, and you don't want your plane to be destroyed, so you will also have to repair the plane. Here is the small board used during combat. You will use adventure combat cards during the combat when you fight different enemies. Here, as I said, is the plane board, where you will use your plane to travel to different locations. Here you can track your fuel and health of your plane. Here is the atlas. Here is a small board where you will place discarded events, discarded adventure card, discarded ability cards, or fate card, because this is called fate deck. In this deck you have different ability cards that you can attach to your character, but it also serves as fate deck. During different tests and challenges and combat, you will take the top card from this deck, and this number in the top left corner shows you the fate number. Then it will be modified with different abilities of your characters, and this is the result of your challenge skill. You can store your resources here. It also shows you what is the turn order. First you have to pass active player token, then you will draw 2 ability cards, then draw 1 event, and then you can perform different actions. At the bottom we have characters. 4 are here, the 5th one is here. I wanted to fit everything in the frame of this of my camera. The character boards are a little different from the ones that were in the first Sleeping Gods, because each character has got health. You have the health tracker at the bottom, and here are different stats of your character. You will use those stats in different challenges, in different skill tests, and here are special abilities. You don't have command points that were available in the first game. If you haven't played the first Sleeping Gods, command was a additional resource that you earned each round, and you had to spend on, for example, you had to spend it in when you activated abilities on your characters. You had to spend command if you wanted to do challenges. You had to spend command if you wanted to, for example, attach ability cards to your characters. Here you use stamina. Each character has got 3 stamina, and stamina is used. If you want to use this character in a challenge, you will use 1 stamina. If you want to activate an ability, you will use 1 stamina. So stamina replaces fatigue and command points from the first Sleeping Gods game. It's a wise decision, because it's easier to manage just the stamina points to do different things. So each character has got different health, different abilities, and different stats. As I said, you have these ability cards that you can attach to your character. This works also differently. You don't have to spend command points to attach ability cards to your character, but if at any point of the game you have ability cards in your hand, you can discard this number shown in top right corner, this many ability cards you have to discard in order to attach a card to your character. So for example, if I want to add aim ability to my add character, I have to discard this card, this one card, and I can attach this card to my character. So it also works much better. The main goal of this game, because I'm talking for 9 minutes already, and I haven't told you what is the aim of the game. The main goal of the game is to survive, is to explore, is to walk around the map, discover different things, especially discover totems, because totems are needed for you to escape and to go back home. The more totems you find in the game, the better. But you are not really sure where to find those totems. You start with a few of them, but you will discover more during the game. So the main goal of this game is to discover different areas and to read entries from this storybook. Because this storybook contains all the story, all the chapters, all the quests and things that you have to do in order to win. Unlike in the first Sleeping Gods, the event deck that is here, because each round, each turn of the game you will draw one event card. This is not a timer, because in the first Sleeping Gods you had this event deck. It contained, from what I remember, 18 cards, and 3 times during the game you had to go through this event deck. When this event deck was depleted for the 3rd time, the game ended. Here, event deck is just event deck. You draw one. You will have to draw one event card each turn, but it doesn't end the game. The game ends when you use all the camps, because one of the actions you can take is to camp. Camping restores the stamina tokens from your characters, and camping will restore health of your characters, some health, but you will cross one camp here. If you go to the last spot, last camp, and you cross it, this means the end of the game, and you will have to read a specific chapter in the storybook, and it will conclude your campaign. So the game ends not after a specific number of turns, but when you use all the camps. So it's also a cool change, because in the first Sleeping Gods you had like a fixed number of rounds in the whole game, and the game ended. Here, if you go well and you won't camp very often, then you can play the game, for example, for a longer period of time. So when it's your turn, if you play solo, you have to play with all 5 characters. You mainly use the Claire miniature to move around the board. In the Kickstarter edition, you also have miniatures for the other characters, but they are used on some special challenges or pages in the storybook. Basically, you just walk around with this one character. So handling 5 of them is not a problem. 5 is much easier to handle than 9, and you had 9 characters in first Sleeping Gods. Here you have just 5. So the first thing you do in each turn, you will pass the active player token. When you play solo, you don't pass the token. You take 2 ability cards that you can use in challenges, or you can attach to your characters, but first you have to discard a specific number of cards. So you take 2 ability cards, and then you have to draw the first event card from the top of this deck, and it will tell you something. Here, for example, Jesse has a painful toothache, and you can pull out the tooth. You have to do the specific challenge. If you fail, Jesse gets 5 damage. If you pass, you will gain this resource. So the event cards, sometimes they are like one-time use, like this one. It tells you to do a specific challenge. Sometimes, like this event, this event remains in play until I do a specific thing, and this event will stay on the table until I do the thing written here. So you have different events, and then you can play. You have this timer here, and this clock, this watch, tells you how much time units you have in your turn. And different actions cost different time. You can travel, it costs 1 time. When you travel, you move your character 1 spot on the board. You can explore. Explore means reading the storybook. It costs 2 time. You can fly, use your plane. You will lose 1 fuel, and then you will have to check what damage your plane got. It costs 2 fuel. Or you can repair your plane. It will cost 1 time. So 1 time, 2, 2, and 1. What combination of the actions you take, it's up to you. You have to spend at least 4 time in order to end the turn. If you don't use the 5th time unit, you can like move it to next turn. You get this special time token, and next round you can use the 5th here and the 6th from this token. So if you don't use the old time in your turn, you will have, you can say, more time in the future turn. And you have camp. Camp doesn't cost any time units. As I said, you will refresh your stamina, you will gain, each character will gain 2 health, you will remove 1 status, and you will refresh the adventure card deck that is here. But it will cost you, you will have to cross 1 camp in the storybook, and crossing camps brings you closer to ending the game. So, the actions. Camp, I told you. Travel, you can use 1 time unit to move 1 space on the board with the clear miniature. If you move to a spot with obstacle, you have to lose 3 health, unless you have something in your inventory that will help you. You can explore, it costs 2 time units. When you're in a location with a number, you have to open the storybook, find the specific number, and you can read it. I can show you how it looks like. With, for example, this is the first location in the game, so it's not a spoiler. And for example, if keyword Murk, you may turn here. If keyword Summon, turn here. Sometimes during the game you will gain specific quest cards, they have some keywords. If you have this keyword, you go to a specific chapter here. If not, you continue reading. And Henrik rests near a smoky fire. A piece of spit, squirt meat, sizzles over the dancing flames. And you have options. A, B, C, D. It's up to you which option you choose. Depending on your choice, you will skip to a specific chapter here and do what the storybook tells you. So this is explore. Fly, you have to spend 1 fuel, then you have to calculate the distance of your travel. You will have to draw 1 fate card from here, and this is the damage your plane will get. If your plane has got zero health and gets additional damage, you lose 1 camp. You have to cross 1 camp in the journey log. Or you can repair. You have to use this ability with this wrench here. You will also draw 1 card from this fate deck. You will add this number to your ability, and depending on the number, you can repair your plane. And these are all the actions that you use. Your main actions will be to travel, sometimes to fly to different sections, and to explore. What you also have in this game that I haven't shown you yet, you have this ability cards. They look like this. You have this adventure cards, and in the first Sleeping Gods you also had the adventure cards. But to activate adventure cards in the first game, you had to use this command point or like command resource that is not available here. Here it works much easier. If you use an adventure card, you have sometimes to use resources to do something, or for example this one gives you 2 health, you have like a character that you got, this one can help you in a challenge. You will just discard this adventure card here. And all adventure cards that are used go to the discard pile. And when you camp, apart from restoring stamina and health, you will also regain all discarded adventure cards. So adventure cards are like one-time use. You use them, you discard them, and when you camp, you get them back. It's much easier than in the first game. You also have quests. Here are some quests that I got just after starting the game, more or less. Here I have some tokens, not tokens, the totems that I told you about. In order to activate them, I need specific resources. I have some quests that I got by talking to different characters or doing different things. The quests give you some keywords, they give you some hints where you can go, what to do to continue this quest. Sometimes you have some riddles, sometimes you have like here you have part of the atlas, and if your location depicted here, you can do something here. So you have different quests. But this game is an open world game. You just know that your crew is here, you have to find your way out, you have to find totems. But where you go, how to do it, if you want to go north, south, east, west, it's up to you. It's an open world with a lot of options. When all camps are used, the game ends. You have to read a specific chapter and you will find out how well you played. But this is basically most of the game. Apart from this, what you see here, some more advanced like mechanics in this game are challenges, and sometimes the game tells you to, for example, test for a specific skill. Like we have this event here, and this event tells you that you have to do a challenge test of cunning and difficulty 8. And if I want to do a challenge, I have to choose characters that would participate in the challenge. They all have the stats depicted on their boards. If I want to use a character in a challenge, I have to use this stamina token. After I choose my characters, I will add the symbols on their board, and then I will draw the top card from this fate deck. I will add the icons on the characters to this number here, and this is my result. I can also use some special abilities from my characters. I can use my adventure card, but after using everything, I have to sum my the skill that I have, compare it with the difficulty, and it's equal or higher, then I have passed the challenge. If not, I will have to suffer the consequences of failing. If I passed, I will gain some bonuses, or I will continue with the story. So these are challenges. During the game, you will also have a chance to fight different enemies. Here are like 2 example enemies from the enemy deck. They have a name, they have like attack power, and they have different squares here that you will have to cover during the combat to defeat them. If you manage to cover a square that has an ability with damage token, this ability will be inactive. If you manage to cover all the hearts on an enemy, this enemy will be defeated. Unlike in the first Sleeping Gods, you don't have any weapons here. At the start of each round of the game, you will draw cards from this adventure combat deck. You will have to take the number of cards equal to the number of characters you control minus Claire plus 1. If you play solo, it's just 5. And each turn of the combat, because one combat round contains 4 turns, each turn of the combat you will play one of these combat cards on one of the characters, and you will perform the action depicted on the card. So don't use any weapons. All your attacks will hit the enemies. In the first Sleeping Gods, you had first to hit an enemy, you had to draw like the fate card, and there was an option that your attack will not hit the enemy. Here all attacks will hit. You don't use any weapons that you have attached to your characters, you just use these combat cards. And the cool thing is that this combat deck will be adjusted during the game. It has to contain at least 14 cards, so you have some deck building elements here, because before you start the combat, you can like remove cards from this deck, add cards to this deck. If you have more cards available, it needs to have at least 14 cards. When it's your turn, you can use a card like this to play on a character. This one tells that you will deal 4 damage plus the dice roll. Let's say I will roll my die, it's 1. I use this card on, let's say, Claire. She dealt 5 damage. And now I can start covering the squares here. Each square must be covered with at least 1 damage token. If you have like a heart with 2, you need to spend 2 like damage to cover it. I had 5, so I can do this 1, I can do 2, I can do 3, 4, and 5. And I managed to cover 2 hearts and 2 abilities of this enemy. Then the enemy will fight back. The power of counter attack of the enemy is equal to this number here, and this, for example, here tells you that the attack power of the enemy is 2 plus triangle. Triangle means power tokens. Usually enemies on the cards, apart from the hearts, they have these triangles with numbers, and this means that at the start of the combat round you have to place the number of power tokens equal to the triangles on different squares here. So this enemy attack power is 2 plus 1. So if I, for example, fight this enemy, I will hit it, he will hit me back with 3 enemies. Then I have to check my cards, if they combat cards, if they gave me any block option. If not, I will receive, in this case, 3 damage. The power works in a specific way, because if you don't cover the triangles in this area before the end of the round, this enemy will gain even more power tokens next round, because he will gain Each round he gains as many power tokens as depicted here. So next round he will get 1 additional power token. And if he attacks next round, his attack is 2 plus 2. If you don't defeat the enemy and don't cover this one, he will get another triangle. So in the third round, his attack power will be 5. You have an option to remove these triangles. There are some cards like this that allows you to remove a triangle. You can cover the triangles on the enemy cards to prevent gaining more power. But basically, you have to defeat the enemies by covering all the hearts. If you do, they are defeated and you can read the next chapter or the next paragraph in the storybook. If all your characters have 0 health, then you will be defeated, but it's not the end of the game. You have to read a specific chapter in the rulebook. Basically, you will go back to the map, but you will lose 3 camps on your journey log. So this is how combat works. Combat is, I think, most, you could say, advanced mechanic in this game, because everything else is straightforward. You move around the map, go to different locations, read your journey, read the storybook, and continue with the story. And this is how you play Sleeping at Distant Skies. What do I think about the Distant Skies? I think it's a great game. I think that Sleeping Gods, the first one, was a great game, and this is just as good as the first one, maybe even better in some ways. What are my pros of the game? Streamlined rules and gameplay. And it's not that the first Sleeping Gods was very or too complex game in terms of gameplay mechanics, but they removed a few things from the first game that maybe were not annoying but were unnecessary. Like, there are no command tokens here. You just use stamina for all the characters, and you don't have to activate adventure cards by spending command. You just discard adventure cards here. The event deck doesn't tell you when the game ends. In the first game, the event deck was specifically constructed, and it was constructed 3 times during the game. When the cards run out for the first time, the game ended. Here, the game lasts as long as you have uncrossed camps on your journey log. So the length of the game is different each time you play it. In the first Sleeping Gods, you had a fixed number, you can say fixed number of rounds until the game ended. The actions, you have more variety, because in the first Sleeping Gods, you always had to take 2 actions in each turn, and here each action costs specific number of time units, and you have a specific number of time to do the actions. Combat is different, so I think that the elements that maybe were not annoying in the first game but took you more time than needed to maintain were removed. So this is my first pro. The second thing I like is that the combat doesn't use weapons, and you don't have to worry that your attack will not hit the enemy, but they added combat cards here, and the combat is using the combat deck, and the deck can be modified during the game. So I like that you have this deck building mechanic here, and during the game you will acquire more combat cards, so you can remove some that you had from the start and add new ones. So it's really, really cool. The storybook here is more interesting than in the first game, because the storybook is in color, is printed in color, and you have additional locations in the storybook, and you have some boss fights within the storybook. So the storybook is not just story and plain text, but you have some, you can say, interactive elements inside, some locations, some bosses. So it's really cool. The same pro that in the first Sleeping Gods, they give you this open world full of quests and adventures and characters that you meet, and different possibilities, and it's really up to you where you go, and you're not limited to any scenarios. You have this main goal, and there is the end somewhere when the camps are gone. All your camps are like crossed, but in general you can do what you want. You can go whenever you want, wherever you want. You can do some quests, you can follow other quests, or you can just don't do the quests you don't want to. You can use your plane to travel around the map, and this is also a nice addition because it saves saves time when you want to travel to a farther region of the game area. So it's really cool. And again, just like the first one, it's a fantastic open world adventure. Great artwork, great components and production quality. You have plastic insert, and this is the Kickstarter edition, so the stamina tokens are made from metal, and you have miniatures, and the artwork is beautiful on all components, all the boards and cards and storybook. It's great. I still cannot imagine how one person can do all of it. Like the designer of this game, Ryan, he creates artwork and story and gameplay and rulebook and everything. So it's mind blowing. I think that the game is easier to play solo, or like I would say more fun to play solo, because you only have 5 characters, and dealing with 9 characters in First Sleeping Gods is sometimes difficult, because during the game they have a lot of abilities and different cards, and you have a lot of cards and quest cards, adventure cards, and 9 player boards. It's a lot to handle. Here we have 5 characters, so it's much easier to play. And the characters are a little simpler. You don't have specific abilities dedicated to each character. You have just the general ability deck. So I think it's, when you are a solo gamer, it's easier to handle all the components. And I like the fact that you don't have to know the first game. If you played the first game, it's great, because when you look at the map in the storybook, you will recognize some of the areas from the first Sleeping Gods. But it's great that this is like a separate adventures, and if you didn't play first Sleeping Gods, you can start with this one and still have a lot of fun, and you don't need to know what happened in the first game. What are my cons? There are not many cons. I have to say that, again, Sleeping Gods, the whole series, the first game and this game, they are great. One of the best adventure games out there, with open world and a lot of possibilities. But in this edition, I missed the one-page rule summary that was included in the first Sleeping Gods, because in the first Sleeping Gods you had the rulebook, but there was one A4 page printed on both sides with all the rules, like the summary of every rule in the game, and it was very convenient because I didn't have to look into the rulebook. In the first Sleeping God, sorry that I compared this game to the first one, but I cannot avoid it. It's a game that both of these games share a lot of things in common. This game is more focused on traveling on foot, and the play area is smaller, and I think I liked more the idea of the big world and all the islands, and using my ship to travel through the islands. So this edition is more like zoom in, you travel around the map, you use your plane, but rather to travel through different parts of the world. So I think I like the ship and the bigger world in the first Sleeping Gods. And I have to say that this game is less unique and mind-blowing than the first one. This is obvious, because this game is similar in many ways with first Sleeping Gods. But when I first played Sleeping Gods, the first one, it was like awesome. I mean, you had this open world with a lot of possibilities, and the atlas and the storybook and all the maps and everything, and it was like wow. In this game there is not that much wow factor, because you mostly get the same base like in the first Sleeping Gods. Of course the story is different, the characters are different, the cards are different, but the gameplay is very similar. So to wrap it up, Sleeping Gods is a great series of adventure games. I can highly recommend this game to everyone who loves adventure games, story-driven games, campaign games, open world games. If you like adventure games, you have to play this series. Either the first one or the second one. It's up to you if you prefer plane or ship. I think the second one is more, as I said, streamlined and easier to play, so maybe this is a good starting point. But if you get Distant Skies and you will play it and you will love it, definitely get the first one as well, because they have separate story but the same vibe and the same feeling. So Sleeping Gods, it's still one of the best adventure series there is. I love the first one. love the second one. Click the like button if you like the video, subscribe to my channel as well, visit me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Let me know in the comments if you have played the first Sleeping Gods or the second one already. What do you think about these games? And thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.